Alright guys, now we've reached the end of the spoilers, and this is going to be the black cooler that's going to be coming out of the set. And I would say this is a really cool black leader in my opinion, because it has the ability to go at a maximum of a +4. So if you don't believe me, you're going to find out pretty soon enough. What the leader does is when it does its declare an attack, it draws a card. Pretty generic ability, I would say, but it does have the ability to basically plus twice, once on the front side and one on the back side once you are awakened. It has an activate main here to be able to discard a black card from your hand, and then look up the top 5 cards of your deck and add a prison planet to your hand and shuffle your deck. So this increases the consistency of your deck to be able to look for the prison planet cards that you need in every situation, and that's why this card is really good. In order for this leader to awaken, you had to have either 4 or less life, or alternatively 2 or more energy and a black unison, Z unison with a specified cost of 2 in play. You're going to draw 1 card and switch up to 1 card to active mode, 1 energy to active mode, and then 1 add cards to your left. You have 6. So the Z unison that you're going to be playing here is going to be the Foosh schemer behind everything. A card here that's going to be able to generate you a lot of value on your opponent's turn, because here when it is played, it doesn't really generate you a value because you do have to discard a card. But if you are discarding specific cards in your drop area that have skills, then that's going to be really cool, because then you'll be able to activate those skills later on in the game. So on your opponent's turn, if you send 2 prison planet cards from your drop to the warp, then you're able to essentially play out a free prison planet card from your hand that costs 4 exactly, and then it gains blocked for the turn. So a lot of skills that you want to be able to use with this in tandem are going to be the 4 cost here. Your go-to guy on your first turn is going to be the SS4 Son Goku Confined Warrior. This is a card here that has blocker twice. It doesn't have the word blocker printed on it, but since your Fu here allows it to get blocker, and this one restands itself after it battles, this means that once it blocks, then you're able to restand this guy, or when it attacks, it restands as well. So you're able to use this Goku quite effectively on your turn and as well as your opponent's turn. You can also play this guy out for 1 energy as well. When you have 3 or more energy, play it, and then you place 2 cards from your prison planet warp into the drop area. So if you have 2 prison planet cards in your warp, put 2 of them back if you want, and then you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send to the warp. So a lot of control already on the top, so that's why I play 4 copies of it. Alright, in order to awaken, so once you're awakened here, this is when your leader can go to +4. So let's read the card here. If it's your opponent's turn, when you play a prison planet card, you draw a card. So using your Fu ability, you're going to be most likely going to be playing the 4 cost prison planet card from your hand, and then you're going to be using the backside of your leader to essentially draw you a free card. So that's your +1, and on your activate main on the bottom here, this is going to be another +1 here. Discard 1 prison planet card from your hand and then draw 2 cards. So because of that, you're going to be able to generate a +1 on your turn. And then the other ability here is to activate main here. Send 2 prison planet cards from your drop area to the warp, and then you're able to play a prison planet card with an energy cost of 3 from your hand, and it gets +5 key power for the turn. So being able to play a prison planet card that costs 3, I'll give you this example here. Cooler here is the Confined Warrior. And this one allows you to, if its power is ever increased by one of your skills of a prison planet card, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then add a prison planet card and add to your hand, and place the rest on the bottom in any order that you desire. So this card right here is going to be another +1 here. And so how do you increase the stat of this? Well, let's look at the trunks here. I do play 8 copies across all the trunks. Even though it does have diminishing return, because if you read here, if this card gets sent to the drop to the warp, you remove this card from the game, and then you may send 1 prison planet card from your drop to the owner's warp. And if you do, choose up to 1 of those cards, and it gets +5 K power for the turn. And you can't activate the skills of Trunks feature cards in any area for the turn. So that means even if you have the other Trunks here, which does the exact same thing, you won't be able to activate those skills because they have those stipulations in play. So anyways, you're going to be using these cards to increase the stat of your cooler here, and that's going to allow you to generate yet another +1, which is why I think this leader is going to be a +4, because once you have use all 3 abilities of your cooler to be able to generate your +3, then on your opponent's turn, you're going to be using Fu here to play out any of these 4 drops, and I'll read one of you guys the 4 drops. If you play the Majin Zodo, here he says when this card is played, your opponent sends 1 card from their hand to the warp. So because you're not generally getting cards to your hand in the form of plus, you get a relative plus, which means your opponent loses a card out of their hand and send it to the warp on your opponent's turn. And on top of that, this thing has revenge and blocker, because the Fu shrouded in mystery, or Fu schemer behind everything, is the one that's giving it the blocker. So you do have a revenge blocker that can take out a unit even if it doesn't get destroyed in the combat. So that's pretty cool there. Those are the 4 drops. Let's go back to the 3 drops. Another 3 drop you can play is Hachiyak Confined Warrior. It is very similar in the sense that if it gets an increase in power, then it can interact on your opponent's turn or your turn, depending on what you want to do. It gets to choose one of your opponent's battle card with energy cost of 4 or less and send it to the warp area. So that's one way of interaction you can have. And then we only have 2 Bojacks here because his skill is not necessary. What it does do is that if it gets a stat increased, just like the other ones, it sends 2 cards from your warp to the drop area that are Prison Planet. So that's why I only 2 copies of it. It has sort of like a unnecessary effect. And then the last 3 cost is just a vanilla that you're allowed to play on your turn so that you can hit for 35k using the Trunks ability. Or you don't even have to. You can hit for 30 if you want. Just depends on the situation. The other 4 drops we play, and it's going to be the SR out of the set, is Cooler Strongest Pride. If you do play this guy out from the Fu Unison, and you do play this out, you can increase the stat of one of your black battle cards, and it also allows you to give plus. It also allows you to send cards from your warp back into the drop area. So a lot of recursion between the warp and the drop area. And then this also allows you to proc all the 3 drops to be able to act their ability. So even Cooler here is able to generate another +1 as well. If you leave him out there and he stays alive, and you play this guy out on the attack swing of your opponent. And then of course all the 4 drops here, I believe all have the ability to be able to be played for 1 energy, so long as you have 3 more energy. And in this case, he does have one of the better ones. He allows you to choose one of your opponent's battle card and send in the warp, and then you get to play this card. So on the activate main, you get to warp one of your opponent's battle card. I think that's a pretty cool skill in my opinion. And then we've already gone through all of them. And then we have the promo here. I only opted to play 2 cards, because 2 of them, because he is element 1, and his skill isn't so great. He does get blocker and barrier, and he's a 4 cost. So the blocker gets from the Fu as always, and then and he's just a barrier blocker. So that's essentially what he does. On your turn, though, you can play him out and then draw a card, and then you get to place 2 Prison Planet cards from your warp into the drop area. So it's a okay card. That's why I decided to play 2. The boss, this is an SPR version of the SR. The boss card that you're going to be playing here is the Golden Cooler. You probably have seen it be spoiled earlier in the month or the last month, but it does allow you to choose up to one of your opponent's cards, ignoring barriers, send it to the warp, and then it has a floodgate ability, which is really cool. Sick art, by the way, but it does have a floodgate ability that your opponent cannot attack with other cards other than the leader unless they send 1 card from their warp to the owner's warp each time. So they're taxing your opponent from attacking that isn't a leader. You are able to play this guy out for 3 energy. It is kind of expensive for a black card. However, black in this sense is a control deck. Other than Hachiyak that we had before as the control leader that is black. This is going to be another control leader that you can play. And so paying the 3 energy is not so expensive after all. And then, of course, it allows you to play a set and then place up to 2 black battle cards from your warp into the owner's drop. So a lot of recycling from the warp to the drop area. Another Prison Planet card that we do have is going to be the super combo from the black, and it's going to be called Cumber Imposing Villainy. It's one of those super combos that if you have 2 or more Z energy, then you get to basically combo it for free, and then you're able to get the plus 10k bottom deck card and then draw 2 cards from your from the deck. So this is going to be your super combo of choice, and it's also a Prison Planet card, so it allows you to be added off the Cooler battle card, or the leader on the back side here to be able to draw into it or get it off the top of your 5 cards on the front side. Then I'll play a Gohan here, hostile say in a counter, because you can just send it off to the drop area to be able to negate it from the drop area later on in the game if you need to. Then we have Petrification. A lot of the cards nowadays have a lot of dual attack, triple attack even. If you think about the Gogeta SCR that was spoiled out of the set, then you know that this card here is going to be very invaluable to stop the triple attack that's going to go into your face, and you're going to need something to stop that, and so Petrification does its job pretty well. And the last card here is going to be Cumber Banished Evil. It's not necessarily to play this card. It's only used so that you can play a Fu out for free for only 1 energy, but it has to be removed by an opponent's skill or KO'd. It does have blocker, which is nice, and it does switch itself back to active mode at the end of the turn, and then you get to essentially give plus 5k power to something, but you have to place 3 prison cards from your warp into the drop area. So that's kind of it. Everything else is kind of like standardized black stuff. So we're going to go into the gameplay video right after this, so stay tuned for that. Alright, this is going to be the gameplay video for the Cooler, so we're going to get right off the bat here. So we're going to shuffle our deck here and then draw our 6 cards here, and then it looks like we did draw our Trunks here. That allows us to be able to start the game off quite nicely. Oops, I drew too much. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put our life out. So we're going to do this. And then we're going to charge one of the cards here that we might not need. We're going to charge the Support of the Dark Empire because we want to see how the deck works turn by turn. What we're going to do now is going to be paying the 1 energy here to play the Trunks. That's going to allow us to draw us a card. And then on top of that, we're going to use the ability of our front side to be able to discard a card. And so we're going to do that. We're going to discard this cooler here, and then we're going to look at the top 5 cards, and then we're going to be able to add a Prison Planet card to our hand. Looks like we can get another copy of this, but we're going to add this one instead because he's going to be able to generate a lot of value. So on our opponent's turn, just much like any other deck, you're going to be Z-charging the card that when it does attack your leader. You're going to do that, and then you're going to take your turn again, and then you're going to charge another card. The SSB Vegeta is a vanilla, so not much else to explain about that. What we're going to do here is pay the 2 energy, and now we're going to play our Z Unison, much like other leaders before it, and then now it's going to allow us to Z Awaken. So that's going to come up with 2 markers, which is kind of nice. And then don't forget to use the ability on the play to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and then add a Prison Planet card. And then when you do so, you're going to have to discard a card. So hopefully we can find a Trunks here. We don't have a Prison Planet card amongst us, so we're just going to add a card that we don't need. Actually, we need this Goku. So this Goku is going to be useful. And then we're going to shuffle our deck. And then now we're going to discard a card that we don't need for later. Let's just discard a counterplay for the sake of learning. Now we're going to attack with the leader here, since we've already used the activate main, drawing us a card, and then we're going to awaken mid-battle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to untap 1, draw 1, and then take life until we have 6. So we're already off to a good start here. So then we're going to go out to our 6 cards here. And then we're just going to keep it pretty easily at 15k. So now on our later on, we're going to use the activate battle here, or the activate main here, to be able to discard a Prison Planet card. We're going to discard a Trunks, and that's going to allow us to draw 2 cards. To be able to get a +1 here. And then we can also use cards like this or the activate other. So we can actually use the other activate main here. Since we did draw the cooler, we're going to actually warp 2 cards. We're going to warp two Prison Planet cards. We're going to warp the cooler here as well as the Trunks. And then from there, the Trunks is going to trigger the ability once we play the cooler. So the code is going to come out, and then the Trunks is going to be removing itself out of the game. So we're going to signify that this is going to be removed from the game, so we don't get it confused. This is going to get a boost from this Trunks here because it says when it's warped if it's warped from the drop, you get to remove it from play, and then give a +5k to any Prison Planet card. So this is going to have a +5k, and then we're going to be able to trigger its ability to look at the top 3 cards for a Prison Planet card. Let's hopefully we don't whiff on this. Which is pretty likely, but we didn't. We can add the Hachiyak here, so we get another +1. So the leader was already able to generate a +2 so far. So on our opponent's turn, we're able to generate another +2. So yeah, so we're gonna swing with this for 20k, and then we're gonna leave that 1 energy open unless we want to play with something, but we can't because we have to have 3 more energy to do so. So on our opponent's turn, we're gonna use the ability of the Fu whenever they declare an attack. We're going to play the Goku out, and then the Goku out is going to have blocker. You're going to trigger the backside of your leader here to be able to draw a card because you played a Prison Planet card on their turn. And then now you have a Goku here that can block. And so if you have a block, if this card blocks, then it restands itself because it was involved in a battle. So you're able to protect the Unison quite well without using any sort of negate, and then you can block again if you want to, assuming it doesn't get sniped or anything. Okay, so we have pretty much another turn, I would say. There's not much else we can do on this turn, so let's just assume that we have another turn here. Turn 3 is when this deck really kicks off. So we're going to draw a card, and then we're going to charge another card that we don't need. We're going to charge another vanilla SSB Vegito. So it looks like we do have 3 copies of these, but we want to keep them all in our hand because we're kind of greedy, and we want to discard your opponent's hand. Alright, so the first things first, you can actually swing with the 20k first because he's going to be able to restand. So that's kind of nice here. Don't forget to attack with your Unison the last turn. I forgot to do that because he can actually attack. Sometimes Unisons can't attack, or they have really low stat. But this one actually has 15k, so you can actually swing. So now we can swing with this one. He's not going to be able to draw on the attack, but that's fine. Now we're going to use the ability here to discard a card that you might not need. Let's discard the Bojack here. We'll get the Bojack later for a later game, later turn to show you guys what it does. But it does look like it drew into another one anyways. So now we can draw 2 cards, and now we generate our +1 here. We can actually warp 2 cards more so that we can play our cards now. And by the looks of it, we can play this Hachiyak. So let's warp 2 Prison Planet cards here. Let's warp the Trunks, and then let's warp the Bojack here. So we could use the ability to increase the stat of this Hatchiyak to control the board, but we can also just increase the stat of this one because Trunks doesn't care about who he powers up. So he's going to remove himself from the game here, and that's going to power up the cooler here, and the cooler here is going to be able to look at the top 3 cards. So generate another +1 here. So let's see if we can get a Prison Planet off the top here. And it does look like we have access to another Prison Planet. Let's try to get the Trunks chain going so that we don't miss anything. And then we have another Trunks here. And we can swing for 20k here. And we can swing for 15k here. We haven't used a single energy to do all this, so which is really nice. And so let's see what else we can do here. Let's pay the 1 energy here to actually not hard play this. But this one says here, if you have 3 more energy, you get to play this card and then send 2 cards from your warp to the drop area. Let's just try to do that just so we can keep up a healthy drop area so that we can essentially use his ability again. So that's going to force your opponent to discard, warp a card from their hand. So that's a form of hand destruction here. And that is a limit 1, so you can't play too many copies of it a turn. We can also play this one here as well, so we can actually do that. Let's just play this guy out, and that's going to warp one of your opponent's battle cards, and then warp another battle card because you're going to increase the stat of the Hatchiyak here. So assuming you didn't attack with him like you were not supposed to, then you can actually swing for 20k here, and then you can swing for 25k. So really like high aggression here, and you can leave that 1 energy open if you have like a negate. We don't have a negate here, but we can actually Z-charge 1 card so that we can play our Mighty Blast. So let's just try to do that. Let's just combo away this Trunks here because we're going to use it for later, and then we're going to pay the 1 energy to use that Mighty Blast since we don't really have anything that we can use to negate on our opponent's turn here. Okay, so let's just play a Mighty Blast here. So now we have the Mighty Blast up and ready. And then our opponent's turn, like always, we're going to use his ability to free play something. We can free play this card right here. And then that's going to trigger its ability to warp a card from your opponent's hand. And they're going to be able to draw a card. So another +2 here. And then you can use the blocker ability to essentially block. That's kind of the idea. And then we can also use this counterplay as well. And that's going to allow us to draw a card and then warp a battle card and then send something from our hand to the Z energy. I think we can Z energy charge this guy, right? Yeah, we can Z energy charge this guy if we really want to, which is kind of nice. And then we also have the burst too as well, so that's also nice. So we're going to send this off to the drop. So yeah, the only thing we haven't done yet is play the cooler. So we're going to do that on our next turn. And then let's say we Z charge this guy as well because we want to be able to facilitate the Z. So we're running it pretty low on hand size, but at least we have the super combo live here. We haven't done the Bojack yet, but you can kind of imagine what the Bojack does. It does recycling. Nothing cool about that. So right off the bat, we have all these 20k battle cards here. We can pay the 3 energy here if we really want to be able to play the cooler. That's going to warp a card, ignoring barrier. Really sick art, by the way. And then you can floodgate your opponent right away and then send 2 cards from the warp to the drop. But yeah, I think we've done mostly everything. Let me just double check here. We haven't played the cooler yet. The cooler just kind of does the same thing as most of the other cards. And then we haven't done the, let's see what else we haven't done. We haven't done the Cumber yet, but we already have a Unison that's kind of established yet. So playing this is actually kind of a liability because, it does play up to, so you can just choose 0. So you do have a blocker in your Z deck, Z extra, to be able to block and then be able to send 3 Prison Planet cards from your warp to the drop area. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much else I can go over other than the fact that this leader is really good. I would say going forward, I would say this is going to be one of the more fun black leaders, especially since you're going to be able to generate a +4. I can't see it being bad, but it is kind of heavily reliant on you having the Fu up. So I can see cards like Black Smoke Dragon being a bane of this deck, especially if they side against him. But then you are like kind of ripping out cards out of your opponent's hand, and then also being able to +1 and then block twice. That has all the elements of being a good leader, being able to +4 in one cycle. However, I'm not entirely sure what the metagame would be like for black leaders going forward. We're just going to have to see, because this leader is not quite aggressive. It's more of like a swarm deck that likes to plus a lot. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the last spoiler video for the black leaders. And so I'll see you guys next time until the next set comes out, and I'll be doing spoilers for that one as this channel is intended to do. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And be sure to subscribe as I'll be making more content in the future. All right, peace out.